Welcome. We're going to pause a bit as we welcome everyone into the webinar today. Hi, my name is Noemi Guevara, and I am the Director of Alumni Engagement here at California State University, Long Beach. We thank you for joining us for our next edition of our 49er Industry Chat. Before we continue, just want to remind you the session is being recorded and it will live on our website at csulb.edu/alumni. We also encourage you to use our Q&A box located below to submit any questions to our guest speakers today throughout the chat. And now it's my honor to introduce you to our moderator, Dr. James M. Binnall currently serves as an associate professor of law, criminology, and criminal justice. He is also the executive director for Project Rebound and the faculty advisor for Rising Scholars. Dr. Binnall's research focuses on the civic marginalization of those with criminal convictions, parole, and post-release restrictions and conditions of confinement. A practicing attorney, he also represents law students in the State Bar of California moral character and fitness determination process. He has published numerous articles in both law reviews and social science journals, and is the author of the first book devoted to the issue of record-based juror exclusion, 20 Million Angry Men, the case for including convicted felons in our jury process. Thank you, Dr. Binnall, for joining us today. And now I turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that introduction. I am honored to moderate this panel. We have four very distinguished alumni with us, and I'd like to introduce them in turn. I will provide to you their name and title, and then I'll give them a couple minutes to speak a little bit more about who they are and obviously why they're here. To start, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jason Jackson, a graduate of Cal State Long Beach, class of '03. He is a Deputy Probation Officer 2 and a background investigator. Jason, you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. So as Mr. Binnall mentioned, I graduated in 2003. I started with our department in 2005, working at Los Perdinos Juvenile Hall as a detention service officer. It's one of our entry-level positions. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. From there, I promoted to a Deputy Probation Officer 1, working with kids who are taken out of the home. So a lot of people don't know that probation has foster homes. So I worked with those kids for about 10 years. And then recently, 2019, I moved to background investigations, where I currently hold that title.
Excellent. Thank you, Agent Jackson. Next up, we have Guadalupe Mendiola, class of '96 from CSULB. She is a supervising deputy probation officer. Guadalupe, if you would, if you want to add a few words, say a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon, all. Yes, I work with LA County Probation right now. I started my career with probation as an internship through Cal State Long Beach at Orange County. There I was hired as, after I graduated in '96, 3 months later, I got hired as a juvenile hall staff, stayed there for 2 years, and transferred over to LA County, which I've continued my career for the last 20 plus years. I was a juvenile probation officer doing various functions like investigation, regular supervision, and school-based. I've been a supervisor now for about 14 years under the school-based program. And we'll go into that a little bit later, but that's the extent of my career. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Next up, Jacqueline Smith, class of '02. She is a Deputy Probation Officer 2 and Central Adult Investigations. Jacqueline, if you could say a few words, introduce yourself to the group.
Jacqueline, you're muted.
Sorry.
There you go. There you go.
So
we're all
yes,
good.
I've been with the department for about 7 years now. I started our juvenile population. The Turk Center was more like a camp type of residential setting. And I was there for about 4 years prior to being promoted to Central Adult Investigations. So now, an investigator, I'm an officer of the court. I work with, every court liaison, district attorney, judges, completing reports to the court for adults at this point. So enjoying my career and hope to see some of you there soon.
Excellent. Thank you, Jacqueline. And last but certainly not least, Leanne Steinhaus, class of 85, master's degree class of 96. She's an assistant probation director and recruiter for probation. Leanne, if you wouldn't mind just saying a few words about yourself. Leanne, are you muted? I think you are.
Okay,
there you go.
Got it.
Now we're good.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to say, go 49ers. We're all happy to be here today. I'm excited to be here along with my associate officers here. I graduated with my bachelor's in psychology, master's in criminal justice administration, and I have been with the Los Angeles County Probation Department for 31 years. And that's pretty much my little bit about me.
Perfect. Okay, so to open it up, I think this is an interesting question for everyone. Why exactly did all of you gravitate towards probation? What was the impetus for you starting a career with probation? So I'll go in reverse order this time, and then next time I'll flip it around. So Leanne, if you wouldn't mind, what drew you to this profession?
Well, I graduated with my degree in psychology, and I really wanted to come out and save the world and help people, help kids. And I thought, well, probation is the place to handle that. I really didn't know what I was getting into. I had no clue whatsoever, but I quickly learned and survived because it's 31 years later. So I've had a great career.
Excellent. Jacqueline? Jacqueline, what possibly drew you to the profession?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
What attracted me to probation was working with the minors. I played a stint 11 years of professional basketball, and during the time of coming home to the office for this time, I had to come home. And a lot of the kids in our group home were from probation or DCFS or that sort of from those agencies. And so once I applied for probation, I was able to continue working with those minors. I just always felt like, minors had the opportunity to make change, a greater change. And just being an inspiration for them, some type of counselor, mentor for them, it was always rewarding. Of course, we have repeat offenders. However, they always seemed to turn and wanted to make a change before they were 18. So that was always my attraction in working with them. So I really loved it. I was assigned to Dorothy Kirby Center to continue to work with them for the next 4 years. So.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you. Guadalupe?
Well, I learned about, I started taking administration of justice classes, and I know I was kind of geared to law enforcement. I didn't know that there was this other world called probation. Most of the community members don't know what probation is. They know there's a juvenile hall in the community, but they don't know what we do. So once I transferred to Cal State Long Beach, I emphasized in corrections. That opened the door to, back then, was California Youth Authority. My professors were very good about, okay, there's California Youth Authority, and then there's like probation, and they really did a great job of explaining that, because it's usually law enforcement when you go to criminal justice. Once that door was open and I took a class touring facilities, one of the summer sessions, I forget the name of the class, but we toured a lot of facilities, including prisons, juvenile halls, California Youth Authority, which is the Department of Justice now. I figured, I grew up in a neighborhood like a barrio, like a inner city. And I was like, there's those middle kids that get in trouble, but need to get out of trouble and perhaps have a successful adult life. So that's how I got into probation. I ended up doing an internship with Orange County Probation, and they just taught me that, okay, there's kids in juvenile hall who are like that middle kid, that middle kid who's not gonna may not be a career delinquent, but is in trouble. So just the passion to work with youth and get them on the right track. That's why I got into the job, and I'm still doing it with school base.
So quick follow-up, just so I can relay this to my students. So internships do work.
Yes.
They sometimes end up in a career and a job, and
Yes.
and they're okay. Just want to make sure. So we're all.
And we have internships with LA County as well.
I like it.
Yes.
So we're all hearing that. Jason, excuse me, Agent Jackson, can you say a little bit about how it is you found this profession? What drew you to probation?
It's interesting. My degree is in business. So I went to school for information systems. So was criminal justice on my mind at that time? No, it wasn't. Actually, I came to the profession. My aunt suggested that I apply for the job. She knew some things about my background, being in foster care, growing up, in certain areas, in certain neighborhoods. And she said, you know what? I think young people need to hear your story. Young people can connect to what you've been through and also what you've accomplished, right? To show them that there's another way, that there's hope. So I took her advice. I applied. It took me a little time, but I got into the department, and it's been a great ride so far.
Dr. Binnall, you're on mute.
My apologies. I do that out of respect, so I don't make noise for you guys, and I always forget. Okay, so I teach class on probation and parole, and I just want to ask a quick question here. So, when my students ask me about going into probation, right, what they typically ask me is sort of, what's the job like, right? And we study this and we read about it and whatnot, but we don't necessarily hear from the folks on the ground, which I think is the most valuable source of information, right? So what I teach my students is that there are generally two components to the job, right? There's this supervision component if you're sort of a field agent, and then there's also this component of, social worker almost, right? Trying to help folks rebuild their lives after some sort of conviction. But those things often can be at loggerheads, right? And I wonder, how do you manage that, right? Your dual hat role as both a law enforcement person, right? And potentially a social worker person that has to sort of deal with clients. And my apologies for being muted. So we'll start with Jason.
So interestingly, so I said the second part of my career, or the middle of my career, the thing I did for 10 years is I was actually working with foster kids, right? So I'm wearing that hat, but I'm actually doing a lot of the work that social workers would do, right? I'm writing similar reports. It's a dance, but it's a dance that, that's not always easily navigated, but you have to be fair. So as long as you're fair and you're honest with the young people, I think that it comes off that although I am the same person that has the ability to detain you, I'm also going to be the same person that's going to encourage you and show you that there's a better way. So you wear that hat, just being honest with them and giving them examples. Oftentimes I'll give them an example of someone, not specifically that had struggled in a certain area that they may be struggling in, and show them that this is how you can pull yourself out of that. I think you set the expectations, and then not be afraid to follow through with what those expectations are.
Excellent, thank you. Guadalupe, did you want to speak to that?
Sure. As you, yes, we wear many hats, and we not only just social work and law enforcement. Most of the cases that we have are they have court orders. So as a probation officer, you have to be aware of your resources, your community, and how to best help. Now it's not only, for instance, a juvenile, and maybe it's not only an adult. It's actually like a holistic approach. You're also helping the parents navigate the school system. You're helping the parent with counseling services. So we wear just not one, we just don't have one client sometimes. We have a whole family that's our client. And probation officers always know the communities they serve. They're very resourceful. So like you said, we just kind of, it's a dance that we learn to dance and we manage, and having the support from each other as officers out in the community, having, great supervisors or directors that help us navigate that, and learn the system, because the books tell us one thing and we come out to the field just like, wait a minute, I didn't learn this in there. So safety also nowadays, because we are considered law enforcement. So safety is key. But once the community knows that you're actually helping them get on the right track, get them enrolled in school, helping them look for a job, it's eye-opening of what we can do for them and getting their case closed with court. So that's the ultimate goal.
Thank you. Jacqueline, how about you? How do you manage this sort of dual role expectation?
Well, since some of my colleagues have spoken about working in the field, I'll touch on actually working in the camp setting. Mind you, my first 4 years in camp setting, I was considered as a DPO off the streets. So I know someone posed the question saying, where would they start? Because I had my degree, I was able to start as a DPO 1 and go directly into camp. So I didn't get the juvenile hall experience, which is preferred, but however, that was my situation. So working in a camp setting, what I realized, it helps in your career if you've worked in some type of setting where there's kids or after school programs or any setting with minor schools. And when you're entering into these camps, a lot of the times the kids are defiant, but they do have an ear to listen. You just have to know how to speak with them. Dorothy Kirby Center, I think our population topped out at maybe like 75. And I worked in a specialized unit, which was the RS unit. And I was able to build relationships with all of our minors. It wasn't just the 10 that was assigned to me in the cottage. I was able to build relationships with all the minors, because if anyone was ever to have a situation or an emergency, I would have known to that one minor, and have a relationship and build rapport with them. So what I realized is that a lot of the minors really like structure. They come from unstable households, so they really tend to like structure. Being told what to do, in a respectful way, a guiding and teaching moment, having teaching moments throughout the shift. It was just, they loved it. Any type of attention you can give them to show them, direct them, guide them. It was almost giving them a big warm hug, just to say, hey, let's sit down and make a multiplication. Or, hey, I'm going to show you how to do your, tell time on a hand clock. They love that. We're just as much as parents that they've never had in some situations. And just learning them and having them learn you. And like Mr. Jackson said, being honest. Don't try to be 3 different people throughout the shift or throughout the week, because they don't respect that. They want you to be who you are. They respect your sternness or your guidance, whatever you're giving them, if you just kind of be yourself. Don't come trying to be, very hard and strict and, do your job. However, they respect you because of who you are. So just learning to work with them and learning their situations and their backgrounds was very assisting. I mean, in the camp, you would get so many situations. Like I'll say, some people may see the job as being scary because riots do happen. They're realistic. You do have the gang culture. You do have, anything on the streets. It happens in the camp. But however, if you never go through those moments or those emergency situations, then you'll never learn how to get over it and how to be successful in the middle, right in the thick of it. So I would just suggest, if you can't work with minors, try to start there. In any program, after school program, or, just if you don't already have experience working with minors of the population, it would be good coming into the department to have that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Leanne, I don't know if we lost you, but if you wanted to speak to this in terms of the sort of dual role that you play, it seems like multiple roles, not just dual. If you're there, how is it you negotiate that or have in the past?
My colleagues answered the question quite well. actually, they would nothing to say other than you be human.
Leanne, we're having a little trouble hearing you. My apologies. Is everyone hearing that, or is it just me, that feedback? Yeah, we're getting a little bit of feedback from you. So why don't we just, Leanne, straightening that out, why don't we move on and we'll come back to her, obviously. One of the questions that came in through the chat was from someone in the audience who essentially said, and this speaks to our next question, what I'd like to know is, how did you get your foot in the door? How did you get going in this profession? And then, also along those lines, what does a typical day look like for you? So when you show up at work, what do your duties look like? And I will read that question. But before I do, I want to give Leanne a chance to respond. Leanne, how is it you negotiate the two roles of your job, or have in the past? My apologies. And you're on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me, or is there background?
We're good now.
Oh, okay.
And now we're no longer good. My apologies. Okay, so we'll go back. Let's start with Guadalupe. Could you speak a little bit about, because you had the internships, I think most relevant, right? So how did you get your foot in the door? And then what does your typical day look like at the office or in the field, either way?
Let me unmute myself. So when I worked in Orange County, I did the regular process to apply for what they call DPC, Deputy Probation Counselor, which is our DSO in LA County. You're a staff in juvenile hall. At that time, I wanted to be a field officer. I wanted to be a deputy probation officer in the field, and LA County posted the position first. So the key is to apply to whatever county has openings, first of all. So I applied, and because of my experience working in juvenile hall in Orange County, I easily transferred into what they call DPO1, out of class field. So I didn't work in camp or juvenile hall for LA County at all. I went straight to the field. From there, I was assigned to regular supervision, and I worked regular supervision for about 7 years. And that daily routine is, back then, the caseload was 175 cases, juvenile supervision in Watts. That was my first assignment. Typical day is, you read your minute orders, you check your voicemail, you respond to the court. You're literally talking to community-based organizations, talking to parents, talking to kids, making appointments, and you have to write a report at the end of the day, or 35 reports, or 1 or 2, depending on what function you use. The beauty of LA County, and I just have to put this out there, is that you could come in as a DPO1, and we have so many functions as a DPO2, meaning you can work with juveniles, adults, you can do IT work. There's so many functions after your 2 years that you can do. Once you can transfer to different units. Like they said, we have foster care units, but at the end of the day, you're a probation officer. So I think that kind of answers the question. I don't want to take all the time, but that's how I got started. And I've been a supervisor for 14 years now. And the reason I stay a supervisor is because I still have my hand on the families, and I still could be involved. And see, I do a lot of community work now with school-based. So what my deputies do is they report to school-based campuses, and they have an office at the school, and they monitor kids who are on probation in a comprehensive high school. So instead of the kids missing school, they do all their contacts and appointments and counseling at the school site. So hopefully that explains it a little bit in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was great. So again, for those listening, internships do work. Jason, how did you get into this business, and what's a typical day like for you?
Oh, so a typical day for me. So right now I work as a background investigator. So as a background investigator, a typical day could be an interview. It really depends on what that day is scheduled for. We'll say on an interview day, I'm going to meet a new applicant. We're going to go over a personal history statement. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things that are personal, and it's an opportunity for the person to explain some of their past and some of the things that they've learned and experienced. But the biggest opportunity they have is the opportunity to be honest. Most people during a background investigation, they don't pass the process because they're not honest. So after we do the interview, we'll have some type of exchange at the end, and then my day kind of transitions to more paperwork or more checking up emails. Definitely a lot of writing. Definitely communication heavy. So there's a lot of writing and talking and interviewing and those type of things. So that's a typical day.
So just a quick follow-up. You do background investigations for applicants to the department, is that correct?
Correct.
And
Correct.
so in those, because I get asked this question a lot, given sort of who I am and what I do here, if someone has some incident in their past, right?
Okay.
Let's say a misdemeanor, say a low-level felony. So are there categorical sort of rules that simply say, if you apply, you are just simply not going to get this job, right? Or is it done on a case-by-case basis? And if someone were to get a negative determination from the background check, right? Is there a way then to go ahead and appeal that and still try to get in if that was something they really, really wanted to do?
Okay. So you threw a bunch of questions at me.
I know. I apologize.
I'll try to get, so are there things in your life that, let's say you've made some mistakes? Are there things that are going to automatically disqualify you? Yes, there's certain, everyone should know that there's standards to be a law enforcement officer, right? The society, community has expectations of what someone in law enforcement should do. So there are some things that we have a criteria, right? However, oftentimes what disqualifies someone isn't that they did something, but they weren't honest about the fact that they did whatever they did, right? The fact that you lived life, maybe even had a DUI, might have made some type of some mistake in the past. That's not going to automatically disqualify you. It's a collection of information that we put together and we make a determination based on that. So I think I answered most of your questions.
So key takeaway there is, right, open candor, be honest on your investigation. Absolutely. And that you are not disqualified categorically. You should try anyway, right? Even if you had something in your past.
And the last thing you said is an appeals process. Yes, you can. There is an appeals process if it doesn't go your way. Yeah.
Excellent. No, you answered everything. Thank you. Sorry, I'm asking like 6-part questions. My apology. Jacqueline, yes. How did you get into this profession, and what's a typical day look like for you?
I applied for promotion for DPO2 and was basically just assigned to the investigation unit. And the assignment, it was a lot to learn. It was another side of probation that I typically didn't existed actually. But basically my role as investigator is I have a report, and just to kind of give you some background, when the defendant or a person goes to court and during their arraignment hearing, they either plead guilty or not guilty. And then once that plea is entered, the judge then order a report from the probation department, and which is my report. It's a pre-plea report, depending on the case, it could be a post-conviction report. And within my report, typically a police officer will only include what happened in the incident. Well, my report includes reports from the police detective or the police, the incident. It will also include information from the district attorney's office. It will include information from the victims. It will also include witness statements. So it's a complete compound report from every aspect of this incident. It will also include reports or information from the defendant, like all the defendant's criminal history, background history, gang affiliation, mental health information, anything about the defendant. So my report is like a complete story of the defendant, the incident, what happened, when, where, how, and also at the end, I also make a recommendation whether the defendant should receive prison time, county jail time, or probation. So my report is pretty important in the court system to assist the judge in making a decision on what to do. So some days I'm talking to multiple victims. I'm talking to district attorneys from different counties. I'm interviewing the defendant either in person or teleconference video. So my day can really vary depending on the case, depending on the type of case I have, whether it's theft, robbery or assault, or it just kind of depends on whatever report I'm working on that day.
Excellent. Thank you. Leanne, I see you're back. How did you get into probation, and what is a typical day like for you?
Well, I got into probation, like I said, 31 years ago, and it took me 10 months to go through the background process. And unfortunately, I have to say, as the recruiter, it's taking about 6 to 10 months. So if you're a junior that's in your second term, you may want to consider applying. Definitely, if you're a senior, even in your first semester, consider applying. With that said, I have done all kinds of different positions and just worked really hard. I did get my master's degree, which helped me to promote. We take exams, and I got 10 extra points for having my master's degree from Cal State Long Beach. So that's pretty much it.
I like it. We have a couple sort of direct questions here. So first one is, will the DPO camp position open up soon?
I would have to say no. And the reason why is because we are currently hiring for detention services officer, and detention services officer promotes to deputy probation officer 1. So when we say get a foot in the door, you have to get a foot in the door with what's posted at the moment. And that's detention services officer and group supervisor nights. Then people can promote to deputy probation officer 1, and we do have a need for deputy probation officer 1s as well. I'm a baby boomer, and so you're going to see a lot of us retiring. I think there's 728 baby boomers in our department who want to travel and get on with life, and so it's a great time to come in and promote up. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you had some technical difficulties, so I have another question for you. So I want to get you involved. There's another question from the audience. Are there any programs that you believe should be implemented or you wish were mandatory to assist with rehabilitation? I swear I didn't write this.
Woo, good grief. That's like a doctoral level student, huh?
Apparently.
And can anyone answer that besides me? A program that's implemented.
Or you wish existed. So you could make one up if you.
And I'm just wondering, is it at the academic level while you're still in school, or for probation to assist our clients?
I believe I believe it's for probation to assist your clients. So is there a program you wish existed that doesn't, or is there one that exists that you're particularly fond of or can speak to?
Looks like Jacqueline has one.
Okay, Jacqueline, how about it?
Yeah, so one of the issues working with the juveniles, and I know that other states have this and it does exist. I really wish LA County some kind of way, but the thing that happens when the minor completes their camp program, you have to remember, a lot of these clients come from unstable households, gang-affiliated households, substance abuse households where everyone is, under some type of narcotic substance, or just whatever, child abuse, whatever. A lot of times when they complete their camp program, we send them right back home to the same environment after we've rehabilitated them for 6 to 9 months or over a year. And I just wish that there was a program to where we could send them, not to take them from their family, but just some type of program where we don't have to put them back in that element. And not even the group home setting, but just, I know other states have like out-of-state programs where the kid would come to a group home and go out of state to another program, but of a more like open setting. And then when they return, they've already completed independent living, they've already started working. They just need to reset their life in a whole totally different state, different environment. I don't know how helpful that would be to our minors, or even if they would even go, but it just seems like the option to give them a clean, fresh state in a totally different place. A lot of times we have repeat offenders, so the door is revolving. Our kids are coming back constantly for repeated programs or to, 6 and 7 programs and over. It's just, we have to keep putting them back in their environment where they came from. And I feel like as a department, that's where, our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do. So.
Anyone else want to speak to that in terms of rehabilitation programs, or shall we move on to the next question? Guadalupe.
I could speak on that. So I've been working just with juvenile for the past 25 years in both counties. So we do have a lot of programs. In the last 20 years, we've done a lot of reform with juvenile. It doesn't seem like it because we don't really announce it. We're like our worst public relationship officers. We don't really put it out there. What is probation doing? So we do have these kids do return home, and that's the plan for them to return home, because we don't get to pick our family, right? But we all get to pick our, choose between right and wrong. So what we try to do, especially in the school-based program, is you're in the home and we're trying to provide you with wraparound counseling services, auxiliary funds. I mean, you don't have a fridge, we'll get you a fridge. If you don't have a bed, we'll find the funds to get you a bed. Get you some kind of employment training. We have where we're giving them in-home counseling, home-based services. And all of this is done all across juvenile, from our suitable placement unit to our foster unit to anybody who has their back home. We could give them all those services and at free. There's no cost to the families. There's not a bill at the end of the day. It's just them wanting to participate. So the programs out in the community, we work very close with our community-based partners. We work very close with the board of supervisors. I mean, it's all about diversions, all about getting them right on the right track, especially with school-based. We have so many services that we can give our clients and the families. And like I said, it's not just the client who's on probation, it's also the siblings. So a lot of our school-based officers go out there, and a lot of our field officers for juveniles go out there and find these resources for our clients. So we have been working, and we've been doing less restrictive sanctions for about 15 years now. So if our kid does end up picking up another petty theft or assaulting somebody in the family, we're trying to not get them detained and actually provide them with more services and have them stay, because unfortunately we can't remove them and then give them back, because unless they're in complete danger, that's the only time we're able to remove them. So, I mean, I don't know if that helps a little bit more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this question, only because I hear it from all of my students, and I understand, and I'll sort of forewarn you, right? This is a bit tacky, but I have to ask it. So my students will ask me, right? I'm going to try to move into this career. I want to know a couple things. One, how much am I going to make from jump? And two, how stable is this position? And I think on the heels of a global pandemic and folks losing jobs left and right, I mean, I think all of us were affected in one way or the other by this. Right? What I know they can look up the ranges, right? But while we have them all here and they're sort of curious, what are we sort of guesstimating as a starting salary? What does it look like in terms of job stability? And then I'd also like to just speak a little bit to, or as a third question, so what does advancement look like, right? How readily does that happen? Does that mean an increase in pay? That sort of thing. I think a lot of my students are looking for stability these days, and I'm curious as to, does this provide that? So I'll sort of mix it up a little bit. Jacqueline, if you don't mind, we can start with you. Is that okay?
Like I said, I started off the street with the probation department, and I think I made off the street, it was like $26 an hour, if I can think back. It was a good salary for my to come off the street as a first career. And as far as advancement, oh my gosh, once you get in the door of probation, you can advance, oh my gosh, there's asterisk positions. There are, like I said, after 2 years, after you've done your position and you've worked for 2 years in your assignment, you can transfer. We get constant emails about open positions, transfer positions, promotion opportunities. There's tons of opportunity out there in probation. Again, I feel like the probation department has a vast array of of different assignments that you can, like, say if I want to do investigation today, 2 more years I can go to background. 2 more years I can transfer to the Army unit. You know, there's a plethora. By the time you leave the department, you can be fully skilled as a law enforcement officer. So my thing is, if you want to get in now, get in fast, apply. We're constantly getting raises, you know, based on our contract and MOU. There's constantly 2%, 3% raises. So there's always a raise in the horizon. And just the opportunity. It's just a great position to be in. Like I said, I've been here for 8 years. I'm considered a baby in the department, but I have nothing but great experience, and, you know, just the salary. Like I said, you tier. So once you are in and you reach your first and second, third, fourth, fifth tier, you can kind of top out, and then you can, you know, apply to another position. So again, there's definitely opportunity, definitely stability in the probation department. It's well worth it. As an entry-level position, it's extremely well worth it.
Excellent, thank you. Jason, did you want to speak to that quickly?
So can you hear me? I look that I'm muted. Okay. So the one thing I'll say from my perspective as a background investigator, I've interviewed many of people during this pandemic. We've had to change how our process works, but we continue to interview for both group supervisor nights and for detention service officers. We've had multiple academies during this period of time. There's opportunities because of this pandemic. There's been opportunities for overtime. So this is a stable career, right? And one of the things that I lead with when I talk to the applicants is, even though there's a lot of other industries that are being hurt because of what's going on in the pandemic, not this industry. Crime continues to happen. There's still people that need help, people that still need support, and probation officers offer those things to you. And in regards to advancement, there's all you need is a bachelor's degree. So if you're a student now and you're thinking about trying to, leaving school to go work, getting your degree will be the best thing that you can do, but especially for this department, because all you need is a degree. It doesn't matter what that degree is in. I saw someone ask the question earlier, if you had to have a specific degree in criminal justice or what have you. No, you don't. I'm a business major. And then after you obtain your degree, you can promote to any of our other options. You'll start with working with juveniles. You have the opportunity as you advance to work with adults. And there are so many different things you can do as a deputy probation officer too. But like some of the other people said, getting your foot in the door is the best way to get started.
And so we're all on the same page. Union position, great bennies, right? Just to throw it out there as a sort of, okay.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so Leanne, you have a couple degrees from Long Beach. One of the questions I want to ask towards the end here, we're coming up on quarter of, right? Or we are at quarter of. What did CSULB sort of do for you, or how does it relate to, your career? How did it get you ready for that career? And along those, so how did it get you ready, right? How did CSULB play a role in this? And along those lines, what I'd like to ask is, do you have any advice for anyone in terms of, this is the one thing you wish you had known leaving Cal State Long Beach and moving into probation that you wish someone had told you? So start with Leanne on that.
Okay, and I just want to go back really quick and say that group supervisor nights start at $43,000 a year with full benefits, and a detention services officer starts just shy of $60,000 a year. However, if you do, and that requires 60 college credits, 12 of which must be in social sciences. If you come in, you get another 2%. So, and if you are bilingual, you can also get a $100 a month bonus. And we serve everyone in Los Angeles County, so we need people that are fluent speakers. As far as Long Beach State, what prepared me was the writing, most of all the writing assignments and the 30-page papers and all that stuff. And just being responsible and disciplined. Like, I am not good in math at all. And I held off and took my statistics course as my last course. And I remember I missed the test because I was so worried about it, but I got an opportunity to make it up. So I had to sit at the department chair's office with him watching me take my test across from him on his office. And he said, you know what? This master's degree is going to open many doors. And I'm like, I hope it opens a door out because I hate statistics and I need to get out of here from taking this exam. But honestly, and I think back on that just years and years later, my master's degree did open doors. My bachelor's degree did open doors. I will be forever grateful to Cal State Long Beach. And what I wish somebody would have told me was, gosh, I can't even think of anything at the moment other than, you know, study what you like, because I just happened to land in probation because it said, you know, any degree, so I applied. But had I known that at the time, I probably would have gotten a few more certificates prior to starting. I did go back. I got my master's degree while I was already employed with probation, and I also picked up a drug and alcohol certificate. So anything that you can get to, you know, as I say, keep the hustle on, definitely go out and work yourself while you're young to achieve those things. That's it for me.
Thank you. Guadalupe? You're on mute, sorry.
Okay,
There you go.
there I go. Just to ditto what Leanne said, pretty much the writing assignments at Cal State Long Beach really help because we do a lot of writing, a lot of reading. We're court writers. All of us at one point had to do it. Now I do a lot of reviewing of court reports that go in. So that definitely helped. If I would have known something different, I wanted to be a probation officer. So there's a joke around the office that I'm like the only probation officer who wants to be a probation officer because there's lots of challenges. I mean, like any other industry, we have lots of challenges, and right now is the biggest one is proving what we do and how effective we are. So that is really hard for us because probation officers work hard. You know, we have many hats, there's many functions, and, you know, we don't go into a function and say, okay, here, you know how to do this now. No, we learn on the job. Investigators, background investigators, the ones that work with placement, sex offender unit. I mean, there is an array. So if you don't like working with gang members, you can work with foster kid, or you can work with the sex offender unit or domestic violence. There's so many, adult, juvenile. So I think just being prepared to write well and, you know, come in and do the best you can do. There's just so much that you can do here. So I also thank Cal State Long Beach for preparing me well for this position.
Excellent, thank you. So we have about 10 minutes left. I'd like to sort of turn this so to make a nice takeaway for the folks listening. What is so I'll start with Jason. You interview folks, do the background checks. What is something that you can advise someone who's maybe a junior or a senior who's looking to maybe get into this career? How can they best, if there's one thing you could advise them to do, how could they do that thing, something that would best position them to be successful in getting a job and succeeding in the probation department?
Well, one of the things that we talk about in the background is personal things, right? And I mentioned earlier that most people don't pass a background because they aren't honest about the things that happen to them personally, right? So the best thing you can do is manage who you are, who you hang out with now, who you are on social media. Manage those things now because they all matter. And if you've already made decisions or mistakes, understand how you learned from them and grew from them and be able to explain that, right? So those are a couple things. But the best thing is to not think that a background investigation starts when you meet us. It starts when you decide that that's what you want to do for a career. So once you decide that, then there should be things that you are starting to sift out of your life or maybe start to add to your life so that you'll be more equipped to do the job.
Excellent, thank you. Guadalupe, or excuse me, Jacqueline, I think we're back to you.
Again, I think like you've been harping on, is that internships. Internships are extremely important. It'll help you get your foot in the door with experience to kind of expect, the population you're going to work with in the probation department, whether it's juveniles or adults. Start learning, getting in areas where you can learn penal codes, any programming, community-based programs, learning about the programs that we offer, just to get your, gain the knowledge of how to serve our clients or work with our minors. I believe internships are greatly, it's greatly appreciated for yourself, for self-knowledge and experience, and you'll just have a more level of comfort coming and entering the department because you've kind of done some of the things or some of the tasks and working with the minor of the population in LA County, or just with families. There's all types of programs and internships where you can work with adults and youth and their families. So I think that's quite important. I know working at the group home was very beneficial to me entering the department. I kind of had a feel for how to deal with a minor when they were in a crisis. Things like that are very important.
So what you're saying is there actually is value in taking Professor Binnall's criminal law class.
Yes.
Okay, exactly. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
And then also just to touch on what California has done for myself, I was able to play professional basketball and still return to my degree and use my degree. I played professional basketball for 11 years. I was able to, finish that professional stint and then return and finally use my degree after 11 years. So I would get your degree.
I like it. Leanne? You need to unmute real quick. Oh, no, you're okay. I do it all the time.
Okay, thank you. I think my colleagues have really stated some good points. I would just say something that maybe most of the students out there don't know, and that is that although marijuana is approved by the state of California, we are governed by federal guidelines, and so we may not use marijuana. So if, like Mr. Officer Jackson said, manage your life now ahead of time. So if you're going to apply, you have to stop using marijuana or any other drugs, no DUIs, because we do a urinalysis screening when you get hired and it needs to be clean. So you're helping people with substance abuse issues. We don't want to have our staff having substance abuse issues. So in any law enforcement agency in California, you may not use marijuana, even though it's approved by the state of California. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Guadalupe, what's the one thing that you could recommend to a student who's thinking about this career that could position them in a sort of an advantageous position to get in and then advance and do well?
What I would recommend is, like Leanne said, it's and Mr. Jackson said as well, is keeping your background clean. I grew up in the neighborhood. What they did in the neighborhood is not what I was doing. So I just made sure that I, followed all the rules, finish your degree, you will need it. And then just advance that way. But, it's keeping, especially now with the young, I have a young daughter, and social media. You could easily fall into that, but it's all recorded, and they do have access, background investigators, to your social media. So be careful what you post. If you have family members you shouldn't be following, I would not follow family members, because sometimes, you're liking their posts and it might be something that it's not legal or can get you caught up. So just staying out of trouble and keeping your background clean and being honest. I think that helps you get in the department, because we are one of the toughest departments to get into. So just, that's a note.
Okay, so that we're all clear, smoking marijuana and posting on Facebook matter, yes. Right? They matter in terms of the front end of getting into this profession, right? So, all right, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. All right, well, listen, thank you so much for allowing me to moderate this. I had a blast. I always do. You are exceptional alumni. We didn't, in my introduction, this was not mentioned, but I do teach STC classes over at Pico and some other places. So you may see me, please act like you're not bored. Most people are. Anyway, I'm kidding. But I do teach some of those classes. So I may see you again in the future. Thank you again. I want to pass this back to Nomi. And again, thank you and appreciate your feedback.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Binnall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our panelists. You had such great insight. Before we all let you guys go, I want to ask if anyone wants to connect with you via email. Are you okay if we ask them to contact us and we could possibly do an introduction via email if they want to seek some advice for the future?
Yes, I'll be open to that.
Yeah, I'm open to it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So for our attendees today, if you would like to connect with any of our panelists, please email us at alumni@csulb.edu and we would connect you. Thank you again for attending. We encourage you to follow us on social media to learn about future panelists like this. And thank you and have a great day.